Hello everybody. I just discovered that I was doing this little shortcut trick that I thought I would share with you and it might help you. This is a pattern by Jared Flood and it's called the Shale Baby Blanket or the Baby Shale Blanket, I'm not sure which. And it has the shale pattern followed by a neat little almost cable pattern. And I wanted to show you this strange little thing I discovered I was doing, and it's a little time-saving device. This blanket pattern is patterned every fourth row, so the 3 rows prior or after are simply straight knitting, or you knit the stitches as they appear. Every fourth row you have this little passover stitch and these eyelets. But to set up for that row, you do it on the row prior. Now, a long time ago, it was pointed out to me that I purl wrong. I really don't like that term wrong. I like what Lucy Neatby refers to as the alternate purl. And it all comes down to how you wrap the yarn over the needle. Now, conventionally, stitches are mounted this way, where the right-hand side of the stitch, this side of the stitch, appears to the knitter in front of the needle, as opposed to the right-hand side of the stitch appearing in the back. Let's call this conventionally mounted stitches. Now, I am a continental knitter, which means I hold the yarn in my left hand, and I knit this way. Knit, knit, knit. Now see this stitch? See how the right hand part of the stitch is actually in back? That's because of how I purl. But if you simply go into the front of the stitch and knit, you won't have a twisting. But what I mean by the front of the stitch is this is the front of the work. This is the back of the work. This is the front of the stitch. This is the back of the stitch. When instructions say go into the back of the stitch, you go in this way. But it's easier if the stitch is mounted conventionally. So normal knitting is this. If you're instructed to go into the back of the stitch, you go into the back of the stitch and knit, and that gives you a twisted stitch. Now, as I am knitting, see these 3 stitches on this side? On the next row, something's happening with these 3 stitches. So if I purl the way I tend to purl, which is not conventionally this way, the stitches won't be set up in such a way to make that process easier. So I purl the normal way, the conventional way, so that those stitches are presented to me in a way that I expect. Now these is just a row of reverse stockinette. Now I know that these 4 stitches are going to be knitted together, so it benefits me to purl them conventionally. 4 throwers. The way you normally do. Well, conventionally. Go through this, and around, and through. Someone's singing very loudly. Anyway, so I do these conventionally. And it'll all make sense when I'm on the pattern row. Now the rest of these, I find it faster to purl alternatively. It doesn't look it, but this is faster for me. Now you will see on the other side, these last 4 stitches that I worked in the pattern row are an SSK, And if I purl them alternatively, I don't have to reposition them when I do an SSK. I'm going to do one more pattern row. So I know that these next 4 stitches are going to be knitted 4 together. So I purl them conventionally so that they are presented in a way that makes that easiest. The rest of the purls I do alternatively because it's faster for me. This all makes more sense, assuming that you understand that the way you wrap the yarn on one side of the row determines, I'll wrap it the other way, determines how the yarn is presented on the other side of the row, whether it's mounted conventionally or not. Now you can see I did the same exact thing. One stitch is presented with the right hand in front, the right hand of the stitch in front, and because I purled wrapped opposite the way you think, the other stitch has the right hand of the stitch in back. We are on the pattern row, and hopefully now everything will make a little bit more sense than my babbling beforehand. So the pattern has this 3 stitches of garter and 1 stitch of reverse stockinette. So I knit, 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 and purl. Now I'm supposed to take the 3rd stitch, pass it over the other 2, and because I wrapped these stitches conventionally, this stitch won't twist when I do that. So I wrap it over these 2, I knit, yarn over, and knit. Standard purl 2. Now the next 4 are SSK. If I had mounted these, if I had wrapped conventionally, these stitches would present themselves like this on the needle. And an SSK is you slip, 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 return them to the left-hand needle so that you can knit them together. But because of the way I wrapped my yarn on the previous row, the stitches are already set up simply just to knit 4 together. Then the pattern is yarn over, knit 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because on the previous row I knew that I wanted these to be presented conventionally, it gives me a little signpost, a little warning like, oh, here's your last yarn over, so I don't really have to count those if I did everything right on the previous row. Here's my 6th yarn over, and now I knit 4 together. Had I purled these alternatively, the way I tend to, I would have had to do kind of that slip, 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 slip to present them on the needle in the proper way. But because my setup row was done the way it was done, it saves me time. One more time. Ooh, okay, here we go. So these are 2 purls. And these don't make any difference to the bigger picture because they're always a reverse stockinette border row. Now, here's my little cable-ish stitch. I pass it over, and I once again purled these conventionally so the stitches are mounted conventionally. Purl 2. Now I don't have to do any fancy SS slipping because these are already presented. These were already moved on the needle so that they're facing the right way for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see the little signpost. You can see that this is mounted differently than this. Just a little visual clue, an added benefit. So now I know I have my last yarn over, and those are knitted 4 together. So it might save you a couple seconds each row, but how many rows this blanket is, I just like it. It's an economy of movement. It saves, and it's just being prepared in the previous row. I hope this makes sense. I hope that it might help someone, and thanks. Bye.